Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special edition of the Sully Squad tonight. We got a ton to get into. We have a very special guest, the Hall of Famer, the Godfather of Philadelphia football, Ray Didinger, will be hopping on in a few minutes. So we're going to get into some Eagles, basically state of the Eagles, the schedule, how they're looking after free agency, all that stuff. And of course, we're going to get into a lot of Sixers. There's all kinds of James Harden smoke out there, rumors, all kinds of stuff with that. Sixers are a mess right now. Phillies were struggling, but they just won. They just won the last two. So we're going to get into a lot here. I got my usual cast with me. I got my man Sean Killer Kilrain to my side. What's up, Sean? How you doing, bro?
What's up, Joe? How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. I got my man, Mr. 6 for 6 below me, Mr. 6 for 6, Diego Bianchi. What's up, What's up, bro? How you doing?
What's up, guys? How you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. And last but not least, I got my man who brings the energy, Mike Fuji. The guy always has the energy. What's up, Mike? I'm sure you're ready to be all fired up tonight.
The Godfather gracing us with his presence. Nolan Smith, 4-year deal. Sixers in disarray. Phil's taking 2 out of 3 from the Cubs. Let's get the party rocking with the Godfather. How the hell's everybody doing tonight? Joe, take it away. Get the Godfather on. Let's kick it. Let's get it rocking. Let's go. Let's go, Birds. Let's talk Birds.
Okay. Well, speaking of the Godfather of Philadelphia football, I am honored to have the great Ray Didinger about to join us. Hey, hi, Ray. What happened? Hey, Ray, sorry about that. I had a technical difficulty. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Sorry, I apologize about that. I don't know what happened. I was trying to click you on and something happened, but I just wanted to say I really appreciate your time. It's it's an honor having you join our show. And, I can tell you, I've been a fan for you. We've all been fans of yours for years. And, many a weekend have I spent running errands, listening to you and Glenn McNeil on the radio. And many times I've gotten some good television show advice from you guys on your segment about what you're watching.
Yeah, that was what we're watching was Glenn's idea to talk about movies and TV and other stuff like that. And originally I wasn't sure if people were going to like it because, your typical WIP listener is a very hardcore sports person who, might not be all that interested in the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. But what we found out was that people really liked it. It really became one of the most popular elements of the show. So I enjoyed doing it. And, and even after I left, Glenn has kept it going with Mike Sealski.
Yeah, definitely. And, I just had another, obviously everybody told me, you're the guy that people come to about the Eagles, but I just had a kind of a personal question. I mean, how was the, how was it to be honored to be put into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
That was pretty great. That was pretty great. Every year they honor one writer and one broadcaster, and you're part of the induction class. So that was 1995, and I was the writer that year, and Frank Gifford was the broadcaster.
Okay.
So I felt like I was in very good company, and it was just a great weekend in Canton. My family was there, my parents came, my wife, the kids, and we just had a ball. It was I didn't expect it. It was the kind of thing that you never think in terms of the Hall of Fame and yourself. You always think that's something that goes to other people. But when they called me and told me that I was the '95 inductee, I was very honored, and I'm honored to this day. When I go back to the Hall of Fame, I go to that plaque and I look and make sure my name is still there, that they haven't had second thoughts and removed it, that it's that I'm still there in the gallery, and it's it's really a wonderful feeling. I mean, I have great reverence for the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the people who built this great game. And to know that my name is part of that establishment and will be long after I'm gone is a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, I guess so. Diego, you had a question, correct?
Yeah, I got a question if you want to start getting into some football. So if you look at this Eagles roster up and down, it seems it's like we have a lot of depth compared to last year. Some people will even argue we had more depth. Is there any positions of concern going into training camp that you think Howie has to address before training camp?
Right guard. You've lost Isaac Seumalo, and you're going to have to find somebody to play in there. They've talked about moving Cam Jurgens over from center to guard, that he can step in there and play. But I don't know. I think that I'm a little bit concerned that he's not quite big enough. They drafted Jurgens to be the next center after Jason Kelce retires. And I think that's really what he is. I think he's a center. And I think that if he has to play that position, he can probably do it pretty well. It's not as simple as just saying, well, okay, well, now you're a guard. It doesn't quite work that way. And maybe he can pull it off. But I just think that if you have Kelce and Jurgens inside together, side by side, I think you're going to be small in your interior offensive line. I think they needed a bigger body in there. So, I don't know if that's Driscoll or somebody else, but I guess Jurgens is going to get the first crack at the job. That seems to be what they're talking about. But that's, you're going to need somebody that's bigger, I think, than he is. Kelce is a great player, an absolutely great player. Talking about Hall of Famers, he's going to be one of these days. But the fact is, he's not a huge guy, and to be really effective, he really needs big bodies on either side of him to protect him a little bit. And I'm not so sure that Jurgens will be able to do that. So, I think the offense in every other area is very good. Your quarterback is really good and just getting better. You've got great skill position guys. I think the trade for Swift was a really good one. I think he'll be able to step in and play the Miles Sanders role. Gainwell's is getting better all the time. Penny, if he can stay healthy, is a big power back. And, you got Boston Scott for the 2 Giants games. So they're well suited. They're well set on offense. But if there's one area, they will have to find a new right guard.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, as far as Driscoll, I kind of had a question on Driscoll because I know a couple years back, I was reading, I don't know how much stock you put in the Pro Football Focus because I don't, some people do, some people don't. But, he was getting some really high grades when he filled in for Seumalo before he got hurt.
I agree. I thought I liked Driscoll coming out of college. I thought that if you remember his rookie year, the very first game, Lane Johnson couldn't go. And it was like one of those last minute, like 5 minutes before kickoff, they realized Johnson couldn't play. Mm-hmm. And they had to throw Driscoll in there at right tackle. And it was a game that the Eagles wound up losing down in Washington. And the offensive line did not play very well. In fact, I think Wentz got sacked 8 times.
Yeah.
But when I went back and looked over the film, the guy on the line that played the best was Driscoll. For a guy that just got thrown in there cold in his first game, on a day when the rest of the offensive line just seemed to collapse, Driscoll more than held his own. And I've really liked him from that point on. And, they've moved him around. They've made him kind of a swing player, guard sometimes, tackle sometimes. But I thought he was a pretty good player. And I think when they've had to use him, to me, he's played pretty effectively. And from what I've seen in the last year, the one area where there was a little bit of concern was I just wondered if he was big enough, strong enough. Sometimes he got bull rushed, and that was something he was going to get better at. But it's obvious that he's spent some time in the weight room because he's clearly a bigger, stronger guy right now. He's probably 320 now. So, I really think that if they gave him a fair shot at that right guard position, it wouldn't be a huge surprise to me if he could win it.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, because I know that, one of the hidden things about this offseason is, losing the left tackle. Shoot, I'm drawing a blank. Who was the left tackle we picked in the first round? Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Dillard.
That's
Dillard.
it. Yeah. You know what? He played so little. He was on the tip of the tongue. But anyway, the fact that they lost him, like if God forbid, if Mailata went down a little bit, that's kind of a concern. Like I'm wondering who would fill in at left tackle.
Probably Driscoll, I would guess.
Okay, so you think he could?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he would probably be the logical guy. I mean, they drafted the kid from Alabama this year in the 6th round,
Right.
who will probably. I mean, he'll certainly make the team somewhere. And interestingly enough, during the mini camp here, they had him working at right guard. So maybe they kind of came to the same conclusion that we were just talking about. That maybe Juergens, maybe he really is a center. Maybe he isn't a guard. So maybe they're looking for a bigger guy in there. Driscoll would be, and the rookie would be. It's just a question of, will he be able to make the adjustment? Because he played a little guard in college, but he was primarily a tackle. But yeah, I mean, right now it's obvious that the offensive coaches and Stoutland in particular, that's the one area they have to find somebody to play in there. They do. I mean, the offensive line it's very good. And you saw last year, I do think it was the best offensive line in the league. And you've kept pretty much everybody else here. But, you do need that right guard. And to your point, depth is always a concern. I mean, they were really lucky last year. They were pretty healthy along the line. Can you do that 2 years in a row? I don't know. We'll see.
Mr. Didinger, I want to thank you for taking your time out and coming on with us. We appreciate it. My main concern this year right now with the Eagles is a wide receiver, because you figure after Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and, you question Quez Watkins in the slot. I just don't know if they really have enough depth there. I mean, it's not talked about, but when you really look at the roster, what's your take of it?
Well, you don't have any worries with the first two.
Yeah.
I mean, they are elite players, and they complement each other very well. I mean, Brown is a home run hitter, and Smith is a really good high volume receiver who is very good picking up the third downs. And then Goddard is really good at tight end. I mean, their skill positions are really good. I know people are kind of down on Quez after last year. Because I did think it was a step back for him, but I still think that he's got a lot of ability, and I mean he's faster than anybody else you got. He's got the speed, and he really does catch the ball well. He's just got to become more consistent. But in this offense, when you consider the way defenses have to account for Smith and Brown and Goddard, with a lot of the double coverage that those guys see, and the way the coverage has to roll to their side. I mean, Quez is going to get single coverage all the time. And he's usually going to get the 5th defensive back, maybe the 6th, he should get guys that he could beat pretty regularly. And you saw last year, I mean, he was getting open, but he just wasn't finishing the play. I look at him as a young player who's got a lot of room to develop. I'm not as ready as a lot of people are to write him off. I think that he's a guy that, you see this happen with young receivers. They struggle. A lot of it is a confidence issue. A lot of it is just adjusting to the speed of the NFL game. But then, like, all of a sudden, year 2, maybe year 3, it just kind of all clicks in. And then they just have, boom, a takeoff. And I'm still thinking that Quez has that in him. I think that given another shot this year, that I think you might see him really kind of break out. I don't think the way this offense works, I mean, they're not going to ask him to catch 70, 80 balls. That's just not going to keep control. But, I mean, he's a guy that I think could be a guy that would be a high average yards per catch guy. and a high ratio of big plays to receptions guy in that third role. So, to me, I know most people are kind of looking around for another answer, but I want to give Quez another year because I think he's got the ability to be a pretty good player still.
Yeah, what's funny? You're to your point. When you were talking about Quez Watkins, I was thinking of Nelson Aguilar. I mean, everybody in Philadelphia wrote Nelson Aguilar off, but if you think about it, I mean, they don't win that Super Bowl without Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, I was a big, and I took a lot of abuse for it. I was a big Aguilar guy right from when they drafted him. I mean, he was the 20th pick, and I thought at that time when I was watching that draft play out, I was looking at him on the board and thinking, if he's still there when the Eagles come to bat, he wouldn't be a bad pick because I saw him play a lot at Southern Cal. And I know the competition on the West Coast, isn't the greatest. And so sometimes guys playing out there can look a lot better than they really are. And sometimes it's very hard to project Pac-12 players into the NFL because the jump in the level of competition is so great. It's a lot tougher than an SEC guy, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked Aguilar in college. I mean, he just played with such confidence, caught the ball so well. Defenses did everything. I mean, he was the only receiver Southern Cal had, really. Week after week, I mean, teams were just trying to shut him down, and they couldn't. So, I thought this guy's going to come into the NFL, and he's going to be – I thought he would be every bit of Jeremy Maclin, if not better, and right away. So the first couple of years were pretty bad. I mean, the first couple of years were really up and down. I mean, to the point where the coach benched him for a game. But, and I kept saying, I know that talent is there. I mean, I've seen it. I know it's there. It's just a matter of him finding it. And so finally that year, and I give Mike Groh a lot of credit for that because he came in as the receiver coach that year. And all summer at training camp, I mean, he made Nelson Aguilar his pet project,
right?
And had him doing drills he had never done before. And then, as we often see it happen in the NFL, a guy just starts to have some success, and you see his confidence start to come back. And that's what you saw with Nelly. I mean, over that year, he started off and played pretty good at the beginning, then a little bit better and a little bit better. And all of a sudden, he kind of became the player they drafted him to be. And you're right. I mean, people, with all the things that you remember in the Super Bowl, Philly special, the Zach Ertz fourth down catch, I mean, all the crazy things that happened. Sometimes it's lost in all of that is how well Aguilar played. I mean, he was the leading receiver in that game. And, and if he didn't have a good game, I'm not so sure the Eagles would have won.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's
go ahead, Joe, my bad.
No, go ahead.
So staying on the offensive side of the ball, one question I got is, with striking out, do you think Brian Johnson can continue the dominance on offense that we had last year?
I think so. I mean, they got really good players, and they have a really good system. And, I mean, it's still going to be Nick Sirianni's offense, really. So I don't think there's going to be a great change from what they got. I mean, they have a system that really works, and they have players that really fit their roles. I don't think that, I think it would be a huge mistake if Brian came in and said, okay, I want to put my stamp on this offense. I think you just, I mean, will he put a few wrinkles and twists in there? Yeah, sure, he will. Any new coordinator will. But there's not a lot of heavy lifting that needs to be done there. I mean, that offense is very well established. They know what they are. They know what they want to be. And Nick is the guy that is, he's the guy that's in control on game day. So, Brian will work all week, and he and Nick will work together doing each week's game plan. But when the game comes around, I think that, I have no fears about that. I really don't. I think the offense will be fine. I really do. On defense, you've got a little bit more work to do because you're going to have to work some new people in. But I think that, I think top to bottom, I still think it's a really good team. And, right now, if you talk to people around the league, and you ask them, who would you say is your favorite in the NFC right now? Most people would probably still say the Eagles.
Mr. Didinger, as far as the defensive side of the ball, what was your take of Sean Desai being named defensive coordinator?
We'll see. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about him. I can't tell you, this is his style, this is his system, this is what he likes to do. I don't know. That'll be proven over time. But that's when you talk about the Eagles going from last year to this year, any concerns? Well, I mean, you've got two new coordinators, and that's, right. You don't often see a team have to replace both coordinators in 1 year. But that's kind of where the Eagles are. And I think it's probably going to be more of a challenge for him because he's going to have to implement more new people into the system. Right. The offensive system is pretty well in place, and I think Johnson doesn't have to do much other than just sort of keep the car on the road. But on the other side, you're going to have a lot of new players. You're going to be with two new safeties for sure. You got some changes on the defensive line. You got new linebackers. There's going to be they're not rebuilding. I wouldn't say it's a rebuild, but it's certainly a retooling, and that's going to be the responsibility of the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Sean, did you have a question?
Yeah, Ray. Do you see any undrafted free agents actually cracking the starting roster? And are we going to make any splashes with linebacker acquisitions like a Patrick Queen or a Miles Jack?
As far as the undrafted guys, no. You'll probably wind up with, you probably have one or two make the roster. They usually do. And those are guys that just play well on special teams. You always need to fill those out. And that's a pretty good opportunity for some of the lower rung players this year because, the Eagles are a good team, and they were a good team last year, and they're very strong on offense and defense, but their special teams play was not great. Jake Elliott is an excellent kicker for sure, and Lovato's a very consistent, reliable snapper. But the punting game was not very good, and the return game was minimal, and the kick coverage was pretty spotty, to the point where a punt return in the Super Bowl contributed to you losing. So I think if you want to really take a good hard look at this team, I think you really have to take a good hard look at the special teams play. I mean, it has to be better. It's not, to me, and it should never be for a team. Oh, that's just the special teams. We'll just put anybody out there. Mm-hmm. No. I mean, if you put anybody out there, you get yourself beat. So I think that if you're a young guy coming in, either a low draft pick or an undrafted free agent, even though it's championship level team coming in, there's your opportunity to make it because they're going to be looking for better players on special teams, or at least they should be this year than they had last year. And for your sort of the guys that nobody's heard of, that's the open door. That's your chance to make this team. And if I were on that coaching staff, I would certainly be looking for a couple of those players.
Yeah. Hey, Ray, you even have Cowboys fans as fans of yours. Miko Spencer here with a comment. He says, what an honor. A legend, Ray Didinger. Love the book, Unfinished Business. Such a great read, even as a Cowboys fan.
I greatly appreciate that. Yeah. Finished Business was the book that I wrote when I knew I was sort of approaching retirement, and just sort of the look back on my 53 years of doing this. I probably would never have written it if the Eagles hadn't won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. It didn't see. I don't know that the book would have had an ending if they hadn't won a Super Bowl. I had covered the Flyers' 2 Stanley Cups. I had covered the Sixers championship with Dr. J. I'd covered the 2 Phillies World Series, but that other piece was missing. And I really don't think that I had a book until the Eagles won the Super Bowl. But once they won the Super Bowl, I knew I had one.
Yeah.
So speaking on your 53 years of doing this job, what has been the greatest thing about doing this job, in your opinion?
doing what you love. Simple as that. Doing what I love. I mean, it's, my father, when I was just in high school, looking down the road, trying to figure out what you wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this. I wanted to be in sports. I wanted to either be a sports writer mostly. I never really thought I'd be a broadcaster. I wanted to be a sports writer. And, but it's hard. It's not an easy field to get into. It's not an easy field to find to get your foot in the door. There aren't that many of those jobs out there. And so, I was thinking of other stuff. I was thinking about teaching. I was thinking about law. I was thinking about other stuff. And my father said, listen, you can make a living in this world doing anything. And he said, but the people that are really happy are the people that are doing something they love.
Yeah.
That are making a living doing something they really, truly enjoy. And he said, so that, what you want to do, just go do it. And it was great advice. At that point I just said, you know what? Yeah, he's right. This is what I want to do. And I had the incredible good fortune to get the opportunity to have that career and even more so have it in my hometown. If I could have had this whole career in Chicago or St. Louis or, Houston, and it still would have been great. Being involved in sports is cool, and I would have enjoyed it anywhere. But there's nothing like having that same experience in your hometown, covering, writing about, talking about the teams that you grew up following. It's been, I loved it. I really, and I was grateful for it every day, to be honest with you. There wasn't a single day in 53 years that I didn't feel grateful that I was going off to do a job that I loved. Because there aren't that many people that we meet in our life that are really doing something they love. Most people are just doing something to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. But I was somebody that every day I was doing something I loved, and I felt really lucky to do that.
Mr. Didinger, as far as introducing your boyhood idol, Tommy McDonald, what was it like introducing him in the introduction at the Football Hall of Fame?
A true highlight in my life. He was my hero from the time I was a little kid. When I was 10 years old, I got his autograph at Eagles training camp. And from that point on, we struck up a friendship that just went on forever. And wound up, after I became a sports writer, that, I was in a position where I could help to build support to try and get him the thing that he wanted most in life, which was a bust in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so it took a long time, it took 30 years. But in 1998, he got the call, and when he found out that he was voted in, he asked me to be his presenter, and so there we are. You talk about a journey. It goes from me being a 10-year-old kid with an autograph book, all the way to in 1998, the two of us riding in an open convertible through the streets of Canton on our way to the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
That's amazing. and then after it was all said and done, I just thought, this is so amazing that all of this happened, that I sat down and I wrote the play Tommy and Me. And now that's a reality.
Right. Speaking of exactly, I was going to touch on that because currently you're up at the Bucks County Playhouse. It just kicked off this past weekend. Can you touch on that a little? Please?
Yeah, we just opened this past weekend. We opened Saturday night and had another show, had a matinee on Sunday. Tonight is an off night, and then tomorrow we resume. And the play, we have a nice long run. We're there for a month. We're there till June 17th, and it was great. The weekend was tremendous. The shows were great. The cast was wonderful. I would tell, for a lot of people have seen the play because we've been doing it since 2016. So a lot of people out there have probably seen it. But what I would tell you is this is a whole new production of it. The
Okay.
Bucks County Playhouse, which is a great theater with a great history right there in New Hope on the Delaware River. They wanted to do their own version of it. They wanted to do their own production of it. So they brought in their own director from New York. They brought in 4 new actors, including Gordon Clapp, that people remember from NYPD Blue. He's Tommy McDonald. And put it together and rolled it out this weekend. And it was awesome. It really was. I mean, we had good crowds. The people were excited. They were laughing. They were crying at the end. It was really, really good. So if anybody, even if you've seen Tommy and me before, I would encourage you to come out and see this production, because Bucks County Playhouse has done a great job with it. And Gordon Clapp, who I had never met before, but I had obviously seen him in NYPD for years. He is tremendous as Tommy McDonald. So it's a real fun evening for people who want to come out.
I can picture when you presented Tommy McDonald when he just went off, trying to do the flip on stage. Just amazing. Like, just all the energy that man had.
He is, the expression "one of a kind."
Yeah.
Overused. The expression, so and so, he's unique. Well, there aren't that many people that are truly unique that you can say that about. You can say that about Tommy. I've never met anybody like him. I've never met anybody that had that kind of energy. And I never met anybody that was a superstar, which he was, that was as warm and outgoing with fans. I never saw a superstar that was so good dealing with people as Tommy was. I mean, that's how, that I, as the little autograph seeker, could actually get close to him, because he just liked people. And he was a guy that didn't just sign your autograph book with you. He would have a conversation. He would sit down and have a conversation with you. There aren't many people like him. And that's one of the reasons why he was so enormously popular during his career in Philadelphia. Well, he was a great player, obviously, but I think the enthusiasm that he brought to the field, and the obviously joyful way he played the game, people just loved him, and nobody loved him more than me. And the fact that we could develop this friendship that lasted for both of our lives, really, and took us from Eagles training camp in Hershey all the way to the steps of the Hall of Fame. It's a pretty amazing story. And it was a great pleasure for me to write the play, to see it actually reach the stage. And best of all was that Tommy lived long enough to see it. Tommy, we did the play in 2016. Tommy passed away in 2018. So he did get to see it. And I can tell you, no one enjoyed the play more than he did.
Yeah, I obviously, like you said, truly unique. I've always kind of wondered, just as like playing style wise, is there any receiver that plays today or maybe somewhat recently that you would not necessarily compare Tommy McDonald to, obviously, but like somewhat of a playing style? Anybody that plays that kind of reminds you of a Tommy McDonald in the sense of how they play?
Probably the best comparison that people would remember would be Deshaun Jackson.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's probably the best comparison I would make, that people in the Philadelphia area would be able to make the association. That's what Deshaun was, just a total game breaker. A guy that, undersized. You always worried if he's going to get hurt. Well, Deshaun did. Tommy never did.
Right.
But a guy who, on any given play in the course of a game, could just break it wide open. That if you needed a big play, he was the guy you looked to. And if you look at his numbers throughout his career, when he retired after the 1968 season, he was second all time NFL history in touchdown catches. Second all time. The only guy that had more touchdown catches was Don Hudson, who played for the Packers in the 30s. Tommy had the second most catches, which is why, I mean, it's almost criminal that he had to wait 30 years to go in the Hall of Fame. But I think that the best understanding of what kind of player he was, go to 1960, which was the Eagles championship year when they beat Green Bay. That year he had 39 catches in a 12-game season, which doesn't seem like a lot.
Right.
He had 13 touchdowns on those 39 catches. He averaged a touchdown for every 3 catches. So when you think of Deshaun Jackson, you don't think of him making a ton of catches. You think of him making the big catch.
Right.
And that's really what kind of Tommy was. Tommy was kind of a more durable version of Deshaun Jackson playing in the 60s.
Wow, that's really interesting. Well, listen, Ray. I mean, thank you so much for hopping on with us. I mean, it's been a great time, and I really appreciate your time. And make sure I know I want to check out the play, and make sure everybody out there checks out the play. And thanks again for hopping on with us.
It was a real pleasure visiting with you guys, and please come out. We're there till June 17th. The Bucks County Playhouse is a great place right there in New Hope. Go online to the website and order your tickets, and I guarantee you will have a fun night.
Excuse me, right before you go, I just had 2 quick questions.
Sure.
In all your time covering the Eagles, greatest Eagle of all time and the greatest Eagles team of all time.
The greatest Eagle of all time, and
in your perspective.
Well, I have to ask you in terms of from when I was covering them, or from like when I was a kid. You just want to take the 50 years that I covered them?
Nah, just when you were a kid too.
Well, I'll answer it both ways. To me, the greatest Eagle of all time is Chuck Bednarik. Now, his career predated me. I got to know him. I saw him as a kid, as a fan, but I never covered Chuck. But to me, he's the greatest player. The best player in my era of covering the team since 1970 is Reggie White. And Reggie was, I still contend, is the best defensive end I've ever seen. I mean, I thought better than Bruce Smith, better than Gino Marchetti, better than Deacon Jones, better than a whole bunch of Hall of Famers. I mean, Reggie was the best. So of the guys I covered, it would be Reggie. If you're talking about the whole history of the team, Tommy was my favorite, obviously. Right. But to be perfectly honest, if you had to pick the number one player, it would be Bednarik. I mean, to play 60 minutes, play every snap at the age of 35, and you're a center and a linebacker. Those guys just don't come along.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How about team? What was the best team you've seen for the Eagles?
Well, if this year's team had actually won the Super Bowl, you would probably have to say them, because 14 wins is a record. No other Eagles team had ever won 14 games. The sacks, they set the record. Points, they scored a record. Touchdowns, they scored a record. Statistically, you could make a case for this team, but they didn't win the championship, so I can't go there. If I had to say the greatest Eagles team of all time, it would probably be the 49 team. It would probably be the 49 team that went 11-1, won the championship, beat the Rams 14-0 in a championship game, and had Hall of Fame coach, Hall of Fame running back is Steve Van Buren, Hall of Fame end and Pete Pios, Hall of Fame lineman and Alex Wojciechowicz, and Chuck Bednarik was a rookie on that team. So that's the best team. And if you look at that team, the 48-49 Eagles, those back-to-back teams, I rank them as one of the greatest teams in NFL history. I mean, they were, when you think about the fact that they are still to this day the only team to win championship games back-to-back years by shutout. 48, they beat the Cardinals 7-0,
7-0.
and
Mhm.
49 they beat the Rams 14-0. So no one had ever done that before. No one has done it since, and I doubt that anyone will.
Not to hold you up. I mean, nobody ever really talks about that 48-49 team that much. Not like 60.
No, it's they were. There really is a great book to be written about that team. There really is. I mean, you could do a really good book about that team because half the team were World War II veterans. You know,
Right.
it was a team of most of those guys were back from the war and came back from the war as different people. You know how that experience changed and shaped their lives, and that they came together. From Guadalcanal to
Right.
the Normandy beaches and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they all came back to this country, and they were just grateful to be alive and grateful to be playing football again. And they all wound up in Philadelphia and put together two of the most dominant years the NFL has ever seen.
Hey,
Right.
hey, Ray, I got one. Now that we're talking about these great teams, when I started watching football when I was a boy, I grew up with the Buddy Ryan era,
Mhm.
and to this day, I would argue with anybody that if Randall doesn't tear his ACL in '91, and if the Jerome Brown tragedy doesn't happen in '92, I'm convinced that one of those 2
Yeah.
years they win the Super Bowl. Do you agree with that?
They might have. I mean, I think that the '91 team, they had a chance. They really had a chance because they had a great summer. Randall was really good that summer. I mean, he was at the top of his game, and the defense was the best in the league by far. I mean, that was I do think that there's some question about. Richie Kotite was your head coach.
Yeah, that's true.
Would that have Richie was in his first year as head coach? Would that have been a big stumbling block? I don't know. I know that they sure had good players, and if you look at that year, I mean, they wound up playing with. It seemed like they played like 6 different quarterbacks,
Right.
and they still won 10 games. They wanted to strengthen their defense, but that was a really good team. That is one of the great unanswered questions of Eagles history. If Randall Cunningham doesn't go down week 1 in Green Bay, how far could that team have gone? Certainly in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then in the playoffs, their defense would have given them a chance against anybody.
Yeah, they brought the house, we brought the pain.
Now Spain.
Pretty memorable. Yeah, that used. I mean, that was a great example of just how dominant that defense could be, because that Houston run and shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, they were tearing the league apart. I mean, they were setting the league on fire. I mean, nobody could slow that offense. Forget about stopping them. Nobody could even slow them down until that Monday night game in the Dome when the Eagles defense just knocked out the receivers and just pressured Warren Moon and held them to 6 points, right? I mean, the Eagles. I mean, what are the chances that you could go into that dome, play the number 1 offense in the league, which Houston was at that time, and win with Jeff Kemp quarterback? That you're going to score enough points to win that game? Doesn't seem possible. But their defense that defense just suffocated Houston that night, and that was. That and the body bag game were probably the 2 games that people will always remember that just showed how good that defense was.
Yeah, that Houston game in particular. I mean, that might have been the best game I ever saw Seth Joyner play. I mean, I just remember it seemed like as all I heard was Dan Dierdorf basically talking about how dominant Seth Joyner was. I mean, he was all over the field. He
was. He did everything in that game. He had a couple of sacks. He had a couple forced fumbles. A dozen tackles. He was a monster that night, and that was kind of the game that really put him on the national map because it was a Monday night game and everybody saw it. And Dan Dierdorf, I always remember Dan Dierdorf was calling the game on ABC, and in the fourth quarter just came out and said, "If there's a better linebacker in the NFL than Seth Joyner, I haven't seen him."
Right.
And that really resonated. And that year, for the first time, Seth went to the Pro Bowl. Now, he had been in my view, a Pro Bowl level player for a couple years before that, but he just kind of got underrated a little bit. But that night, that night it put him on everybody's radar. And from that, he went to the Pro Bowl that year, and then he went to the Pro Bowl pretty much every year after that. But that was a watershed game for him, and a watershed game really for the whole defense.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, just one more question. Did he ever mention that to you? Like, just like saying how important that game was to him? Like, did he realize how that was?
Oh yeah. Oh, he very aware.
Yeah.
I mean, it really it isn't like he suddenly became a great player that night. I mean, he had been that for a long time, but nobody really noticed because that was the era of linebackers were being judged purely by sacks.
Yeah.
You had Pat Swilling, you had Derek Thomas, you had LT still, Ricky Jackson. I mean, all linebackers were being judged by their sack statistics. And, Seth got his sacks. I mean, he could get the quarterback too. But Buddy had him doing a lot of other stuff, the defense. So statistically, if all you were going by was sacks, well, that didn't work to Seth's advantage. Somebody had to actually see him play his total game to say, Jesus, this guy's really good. Right. Well, it happened that night in Houston. He knows how important that team was. But what people don't know about that is how sick he was. He was sick for the whole time they were in Houston. He got sick on the flight. He was sick at the hotel. Wow. He was sick the day of the game. And they weren't even sure, like midday on Monday, if he was going to be able to play because he hadn't been able to keep any food down for like 2 days. But he said, "There's no way I'm not playing." And he went out and played probably his best game ever, and certainly the most impactful game ever before the Monday night audience.
I recall 1992 home opener against the Saints. Or no, it was the Minnesota game where he just came out and brought it. Jerome Brown being honored and
yeah, you were right the first time. It was the
Saints.
It was the Saints. That was the home opener, and that was the day that they had Jerome's family at the game, and they gave him his jersey. Jerome's jersey in a frame for them to keep, and that was a pretty memorable game. And Jerome was a very, very important part of that team. He was
big time.
Yeah, I mean the guys on that team. I mean he was a character. I mean he was crazy, but he was a handful on Sunday. I mean, he was. There aren't too many interior defensive linemen that can collapse the pocket the way he could.
Yeah, I'll say it's a shame Jerome Brown died because he's one of my top 3 Eagles of all time. That man was an impact on that line.
He was, and and the fact that you had Reggie and Clyde on the outside. And you had Seth and Byron Evans, and you had Wes Hopkins and Andre, and I mean that was a really good defense. If you talk to, as I have over the years, you talk to guys who played in the NFC then at the NFC East, guys like Phil Simms, talk to them about what it was like to play against that Eagles defense. None of them liked lining up against that defense, especially at the vet.
Yeah, I always loved Bill Parcells when I read the story, or it was something like he said to Phil Simms, "Well, the Eagles just drafted Jerome Brown. We're in for some long days, Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was, and everybody knew it. That was for sure. And that was an era in where the NFC East was just really good. I mean, the Redskins under Gibbs were really good. They had the Hogs on the offensive line. They were big and tough. The Giants under Parcells were the same way. Yeah, they were just built big and tough. And then the Eagles were what they were. And, and the Cowboys were sort of in a retooling phase coming off the Landry years, but they were just starting to get better under Jimmy Johnson. And, in that block of time, I mean, the NFC East just ruled football.
Dominant.
Yeah.
They just ruled football. And that was, from a Philadelphia standpoint, that was fun because in terms of just playing good, hard-nosed, smash-mouth football, the Eagles could do that with the best of them. And they did.
Yeah.
Will Eric Allen ever get a nod in the Hall of Fame?
Who's that?
Eric Allen.
He should. He should. Actually, he's a guy that I think should be in there by now. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised that he hasn't gotten more support because he's done everything. I mean, he played a long time. He is one of those rare players who played his whole career at cornerback. A lot of guys who start out at cornerback wind up moving to safety at some point. And Eric never did. I mean, Eric played 14 years, I think, and played it at corner the whole time, which there aren't many guys who've done that.
Yeah.
Had a lot of interceptions. He shares the Eagles club record for interceptions, made a lot of big plays. I mean, you talk about not just interceptions, but interceptions for touchdowns. Right. I mean, statistically, if you look at the numbers, his numbers are better than a lot of guys who are in the Hall of Fame. I don't know why. I don't know why, unless it's as simple, and sometimes it is. It just didn't win a Super Bowl, and that shouldn't be the ultimate criteria. But for a lot of voters, if a guy wins just one Super Bowl, it helps tremendously to get you in. But when I was a Hall of Fame voter, I used to always try to look at guys who were in the Hall of Fame, and then look at my candidate or whoever we're voting on, and just say, okay, how does this guy compare to guys that are already in there? Is he not as good? Yeah, well, then maybe he doesn't belong. But if you can honestly look at a guy and say, he was as good as they were, that's a good starting point. And when I look at Eric Allen, I look at Aeneas Williams. Aeneas Williams played they were contemporaries. They played at the same time. They played in the same conference. I saw Aeneas Williams play a lot, and I thought Aeneas Williams was a really good player. And I had no problem voting for him for the Hall of Fame. But Eric Allen was every bit as good as he was, if not better. So if Aeneas Williams is in the Hall of Fame, and again, I'm not saying he shouldn't be, but if Aeneas Williams is in the Hall of Fame, then absolutely Eric Allen belongs there. And this year he was on the ballot, not the final 15, but he was on like that next ballot. Right. So he's in the conversation now. And guys will now have to start taking a longer look at him. And, sometimes it takes time. I mean, it took Tommy 30 years. I hope it doesn't take Eric that long. But once you're kind of in the discussion, then ultimately I think your day will come. But, Eric Allen, to your point, should he be in the Hall of Fame right now? Yeah, he should be there right now today.
Yeah, the eye test tells you that Eric Allen's a Hall of Famer. I mean, if you took a poll, I bet you if you took a poll of 100 football fans that really legitimately watch football, I bet you 75, 80% at least would say Eric Allen was a Hall of Famer. There's no way.
I agree. I agree. That's why I'm surprised that there hasn't been a greater groundswell to get him in. But the same thing. I mean, I've always felt that way about Bill Bergey. I think to me, Bill Bergey was a Hall of Famer. But unfortunately, he played for teams that weren't that good most of his career. But again, similar comparison. Harry Carson, Bill Bergey. Both played at the same time, both played the same position, both played in the NFC East. Again, I saw them. I saw Harry Carson play a lot of football, and he was really good. And is he a Hall of Famer? Yeah, I'd say he is. But Bill Bergey was every bit of what Harry Carson is. So if Harry's in, Bill should be in. And to be honest with you, if you told me, okay, you can have one of them, but you can't have both of them, I would take Bergey over Carson because I think Bill, at his peak, Bill was better.
Right. Yeah, just have one more. My buddy, the Cowboys fan, he wants to know: Do you think Tony Romo could get in the Hall of Fame just because of numbers?
No.
Okay.
No.
I think Romo. No,
I think that's no. I think that's to the numbers of today's game are so crazy. The numbers that especially on the offense and the passing game. I mean, if you start, you just got to go by what you saw of the player. If I remember Paul, when I first became a voter for the Hall of Fame, talking to Paul Zimmerman, Dr. Z, the writer for Sports Illustrated, because Dr. Z had been on the voting board for a long time. And I asked him about the criteria and how you judge and all that stuff. And he said, it's not really about the numbers. The numbers are just a starting point. It's just a kind of a reference point. He said, what you have to judge by is the eye test. What did you see? He said, really, he said, when you should be able to say, when you're watching a guy play, when you watched his career, you knew you're watching him and saying, this guy's a Hall of Famer.
Right.
He's just different. He's just different than everybody else. I mean, he's just, even on a field, in an NFL field, where all the guys are really good. This guy, he's special, and you don't have to look at the numbers much beyond that to know that. And I think that, Tony Romo is very good. I mean, people in Philadelphia, will scoff at that because he was a Cowboy, but he was really good, and his numbers reflect that. But was he a Hall of Famer? No, I don't think so. I mean, that's, if you just went by the numbers, and some people in Dallas do, they say, well, Tony Romo had better numbers than Roger Staubach. And Roger Staubach's in the Hall of Fame. Well, yeah. Are you really going to tell me that Tony Romo's better than Roger Staubach? No. Right. So that's why the numbers, especially when you're crossing eras, can really confuse matters. If you just try to go by the numbers, yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff, that people come to those conclusions. But if you really know football and you've watched it over a long enough period of time, you can tell the difference.
Yeah. Hey, and if you went by field goal holding, he wouldn't even be on the field.
Yeah, true. And the postseason, his postseason record is what it is. His postseason record wasn't very good. I think, I actually think Staubach is one of the. When people talk about who are the great quarterbacks, I don't think Staubach's name comes up often enough. I think Staubach was an incredible player, and just incredibly clutch and able to make plays in big games. And the Cowboys were really good in his era, but to me, he was the difference maker. He was the guy. I mean, after he retired and Danny White took over, they had all the same players, but they didn't win the big games. Staubach was the guy. He was the difference maker in the big games, and that's really kind of what you look for in a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, hey, Ray, once again, thank you so much for hopping on with us. This has been a great time, great pleasure,
Thanks.
and
An honor.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys, and
Thank you.
Awesome.
Let's sit back and enjoy the Eagle season.
Yep.
Sounds good. All right, thanks a lot, Ray.
Thank you very much,
you.
Ray.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good night.
Have a great night.
Have a good night. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
That was a great time. Yeah.
It's like you're listening to a legend. We're all just tuned in,
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
Like all little kids, just like
It's like history all over, man. Just the knowledge and, like how we said earlier, the wealth of just
like the God,
him just talking about it.
just the
he doesn't get
Godfather
that
holding
nickname, the
court.
Godfather. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you see that guy. I seen that guy my whole entire life, and I'm just always thought to myself, man, it'd be cool to have a conversation with that guy. And then here we are, we're having this conversation with this guy.
The
And
Godfather
you're in awe.
holding
You don't know
court.
what to do.
Right.
I was
Yeah,
like
now-
a little kid in the Kane store.
Now, as fun as that was, I wanted to get into something that's not that fun, and that's Philadelphia 76ers. So we'll get into Sixers in a minute, but before we do, let me give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Monkey Colt Coffee. Anybody out there that's a coffee drinker, make sure you check these guys out. You could use the promo code OOTB Sports at monkeycoltcoffee.com at the checkout. The owner, Matt, donates 10% of each sale to National Pediatric Foundation at nationalpcf.org. So make sure you check them out. And any Boston, anybody with some legal problems, we got slip and fall, workers' comp, injury claims. Well, any Boston Celtics fans out there that are falling off the bandwagon, down 3-0, okay? Any Boston Celtics fans out there falling off the bandwagon, maybe you got some splinters in your ass. If you want to file, if you want to call for a personal injury claim, call my man Jason Fine right here, aka Attorney Big Al. You could call Jason directly at 267-962-4895 or Miko Spencer at 267-393-7324 for a free consultation. He's got 3 offices throughout Pennsylvania, New Jersey, one in Philadelphia, Cherry Hill, and one in Pittsburgh. So make sure you check them out. But all right, guys, listen, and that was a great time. All right. Yeah. But unfortunately, we got a basketball team in this town that's just driving me absolutely insane. There's all kinds of rumors. Is James Harden going back to not Pittsburgh? What the hell? Houston. Yeah, I don't know why I got.
Oh, I go to Pittsburgh.
It's okay.
Yeah, he could be the fish you'd say, Pittsburgh.
I'm going to make a mascot for the Pirates. There we go.
Well, you know what? Sean would drive him to Pittsburgh. Sean, apparently you don't care where Harden goes. He could go to Pittsburgh, Houston. Yeah. You just want him out of here.
Yes.
Correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
All right. Now, but my question to you, okay, is as bad as Harden was in game 6 and 7. Now we know he came up small. First off, not to play devil's advocate here, they only win 2 of those games because of Harden. But the more realistic thing is, if he leaves here, what the hell are they going to do? They're only going to have $12 million of cap space. So what? How do you replace Harden's production?
Go through free agency. I mean, it's
yeah, but hell, you only have $12 million though.
Everyone says get Harden out of here. No one's got a solution for what's going to happen when Harden's out of here. There is no solution. We have no solution. If Harden leaves, you're never going to be able to get a guy with $12 million for that caliber of player.
And I don't want to give him that kind of money. What they're saying, it's ridiculous. I mean,
I agree.
We all talked about it. There's rumors, like you said earlier, Joe. Do you trade him to Portland for the 3rd pick and all this? I mean, it's all this and that, but.
No, you can't trade Harden to Portland. He's got a player option, don't he?
I'm sorry, Embiid. I was on the topic of Embiid, but with Harden, I mean, I see all signs, unfortunately, him going to Houston.
I think the opposite. I think that's all just. You think why would Houston go backwards?
All right. Yeah, but the other rumor is, Morey wants to keep him for 4 years for $200 million, which
but that's crazy. That's money is crazy.
That's suicide.
I'll tell you what, you guys were saying D'Angelo Russell last week. Please don't bring him here.
Yeah, I know. We were talking about that last week. I mean,
please, if you watch him if you watch that Lakers Nuggets series, that dude is not a winning player. Yeah, he's all right, but that's not a replacement for James Harden.
I know.
He's also a snitch,
He's also a
snitch. So imagine, you know how NBA players got different Johns in different cities. Can you imagine, like, you're showing up to like ATL and you got some nice honeys waiting for you, and next thing you know, D'Angelo Russell, he stays snitching, dog.
Yeah, he's going on Instagram Live. You know what I'm saying? He's like, let's go on Instagram Live. Him and John Moran on Instagram Live talking, getting themselves in trouble.
Yeah. Stay away from social media.
So Charles
we're in such a tough spot with this team. It's like you can go in every direction. Like you let Harden walk, try to trade him build around Maxey, start all over again. You try to bring Harden back on like a 2-3 year deal, run it back with a couple extra shooters around.
True.
They're like your only 2 options, really.
Yeah.
See, the thing that scares me is the 4-year deal.
Yeah.
But I got to be honest with you though. Like I know Keith Pompey put it out there. He said there's some real smoke to this Houston stuff. But Diego, I know we keep saying it, but I can't see a team giving him 4 years. I just can't. and it's funny because they keep reporting it, but I'm just kind of wondering if that's agent driven, that's Harden's camp driven, and maybe even other teams driven to try to make the Sixers give him 4 years because it
Yeah,
shuts the Sixers, you know what?
I just keep thinking, why would the Houston Rockets move on from James Harden, acquire all these picks, draft all these young kids to rebuild and try to compete as a young team in the NBA, to bring back an old guy for
That's
what?
A cancer. That's a
For
cancer.
what? That's exactly, Foos. Like it doesn't make any sense for Houston. To me, the report is dumb.
Right.
Just like we said before, it's a smoke screen just to build up, like Joey said, the agents, their camp. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just utter nonsense. But like you said, Diego, where do we go? Because we're in a big pile of muck. And do we get out or are we stuck?
Plus, you still got the bias.
That's all I would offer Harden. If you don't take 2 years, I'm with Sean. Walk away.
Yeah. You have to. You cannot put yourself in that hole, because if we give him 4 years and all that money, we're screwed. I mean, we're starting all the way back over. You might as well just try to trade him, put feelers out there. You got the rumors, like we said, Portland, OKC, Atlanta. Who knows? But it's just a crazy scenario, man. It doesn't look good for us.
Plus,
not at all.
Well, plus you got Embiid's Supermax contract kicking in this year, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
It just makes me sick that 11 years ago, 2012, right, the year before the process, Sixers lost Game 7 in Boston with Andre Iguodala, Drew Holiday, and all. We were stuck in purgatory. So then that summer they go out and they try to get Andrew Bynum. They're like, okay, we're going to get Bynum. And I still remember. I remember listening to the radio that day with the people in the Constitution Center or wherever it was, and it was like, all right, Sixers are going to contend. Meanwhile, Bynum never plays; they suck. Then they start the process, and you're like, okay, we're not going to be in purgatory anymore. Like for me, like I bought into it. I'll admit, I bought into it.
We all did. They sold it to us all.
Everybody did.
Okay,
go ahead.
No, I was just saying, but like. You fast forward 11 years later, and now all of a sudden, think about it, we're in the same purgatory. We're literally sitting here like, man, if we lose a 34-year-old James Harden, we can't compete. It's almost like trying to make the Hail Mary move and getting a Bynum. It's almost the same thing. We're right back to where we were.
Well, they made Bynum like the second coming with all that hype in that press conference.
Bynum asked me last week if I wanted to go bowling.
I remember.
Yeah. Remember Doug Collins was like, please say a prayer for Andrew Bynum. Everybody's like, F Andrew Bynum. He don't play, you know?
All right, so say we let James Harden walk. That clears $12 million. If we can get Tobias Harris off the payroll, that's another $39 million, right? For the year?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we make something work if we can get rid of both them people and maybe just look at Miami? Look at Miami and Denver. They got one superstar. They got a bunch of good players around these guys. You know what I mean? Can we somehow move Harden and Tobias and build something similar around Joel Embiid?
Yeah, it's possible. Absolutely. Like
look at Miami. Miami got a bunch of guys just want to shoot. They got a bunch of guys Vincent Joseph looked like the best point guard in the league yesterday. Jimmy Butler let them do his thing. And B can let Maxey do his thing. Max Strus comes in big, hits big shots. Duncan Robinson hit big shots. Like, can we just put together a team that just wants to play basketball? It's not scared. It's not melting airballing threes in the fourth quarter of the biggest game of the year. Not Tobias Harris passing up threes to put it on the floor when we're wide open. This makes Embiid. Now look, I wanted to blame everything on Embiid a week ago when we lost, but it's not all Embiid's fault. It's really not. We got no guys around that want to hit open shots. If you watch that Boston series, all you see is 4 guys parked in the paint. They're not scared of any of these guys on the perimeter hitting shots. It's just, I don't know. To me, the whole construction of this whole entire team is just wrong.
And another thing to bring up. Go ahead, Joey. Go.
No, go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
It's just like Jimmy Butler and the Heat players are getting in the heads of Boston players where we were like lost puppies, scared. We didn't even do that. He's getting,
and they don't even do anything. All they do is play hard. They just play Eric Spoelstra basketball. They just play hard. They dive for balls. They hit what Caleb Martin, like they hit like 3 big shots.
Exactly.
I was gonna say I saw on Twitter like people were like, damn, like Boston, like Caleb Martin is straight up hanging 20 on the Celtics. And you know, to your point, like to talk about kind of the Heat, it just goes to show you that like management and culture are, I mean, yes, let's be honest. All right, number one, the NBA is a player run league. We know that. We know you need a star player, at least one star player, a lot of times too. We know that. But the bottom line is the Miami Heat are showing you that a really solid, well-run organization and a winning culture goes a long way. Like for instance, like Diego, like I was thinking about this. You know how we're going to do like the Steph Curry show about how influential Steph Curry is as a player, you know, compared to Wilt and all that stuff. I think it's been proven again. Pat Riley might be Pat Riley is top 3 greatest executive this NBA has ever seen.
He has to be.
It's not even a question.
Yeah.
Everywhere Pat Riley goes, he just puts together beast-ass teams and wins.
I mean, and think about it.
Players. It's amazing.
Different styles, too. You go way back in the day with Pat Riley when he was young with the slick back hair. Then he goes to New York. And he plays physical. He kind of copies the Detroit Pistons, plays a physical brand of basketball. Goes to Miami, does the same shit with like Alonzo Mourning and them cats, right? Yeah. Now,
then he puts together a super team. Then he puts together LeBron James and D-Wade, like the most super team. And then now he just built a great team again. No more super team. No more like they have one great player and a bunch of great drafted and undrafted guys.
He's like playing Jenga and he ain't dropping the pieces, man. It's amazing.
Yo, you know what's messed up? Yo, Miami picks up these no-name undrafted players like New England used to pick up on heralded wide receivers.
100%.
You're right.
He just has an eye for talent. He just sees the game better than everybody else.
You know what it is? He doesn't just see the game. He sees what's inside a guy. Pat Riley, perfect example too. When he was with the Knicks, nobody knew who the hell Anthony Mason was. He came from like the CBA. John Starks came from the CBA. Guess what? Pat Riley was the coach. He saw them guys had some dog in them, and he put them with like Pat Ewing and Oakley and them guys.
Well, that's Vincent Joseph and Max Strus right there. Strus was an undrafted free agent too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, Joseph yesterday. I've always liked that dude, Vincent Joseph. He just continues to get better.
It's
and they went to good colleges too. DePaul, Santa Clara, and
he just finds dogs.
Where, like we said earlier, the Sixers lack. They don't have that guy
killer instinct.
Talent.
And don't forget, they're missing their third best player. They're doing all this without Tyler Hero, who's one of the best shooters in this game.
Yeah.
Well, even Kevin Love was a nice pickup for them.
Yeah. Kevin Love stepping up for them.
Big time.
And boy, Diego, how wrong was I? Remember like 3-4 months ago, I was like, they said Kevin Love was down to like the Sixers or Miami, and we both were like, he's going to go to Miami. And I was like, the Sixers got a better chance. Boy. Yeah, boy, was I wrong.
Right.
Miami.
Yeah, but the thing is, everyone probably felt that way.
True, because of what the players we had. You're right.
Right.
Now, you know what's funny? Because remember, like years ago, like you always said you had to be like a top 2 or 3 seed to make it in the NBA. But like the fact that the regular season is so like the regular season means so little anymore that I'm wondering if like the Lakers are a 7 seed, Miami's an 8 seed. Like I'm wondering if this is going to happen more going forward because teams are kind of punting on the regular season per se, just resting guys and chilling. And then so you may start to see this where, 7 seeds, 8 seeds, 6 seeds that kind of just chilled most of the year, get hot in the playoffs. It could almost take on like a more of an NHL type feel.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. You see it with These teams,
Oh.
like you said, Lakers, Golden State wasn't that high up in the conference this year. Miami, so you're definitely seeing it where a lot of these teams might. Like, think about it. The older Joel Embiid gets, the older Giannis gets, and these teams got these players, they're going to be like, dude, you know what? Give him 30, 35 games off a year. You know, let's just get the best Giannis and the best Joel Embiid we can in the playoffs. Who cares if we're a 6 seed?
Yeah. All right. Well,
We won 2 games in a road against Boston this year. You know,
Yeah.
Miami won 2 games on the road against Boston. Atlanta won a game on the road. Like, you can win on the road in this league. This is a miss or make league. The crowd doesn't really have much to do with it. Like, either your shot goes in or it don't. Dude, Boston couldn't miss a what? It's not like Miami's shutting Boston down. Miami's not shutting Boston down. Boston just missing their open threes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yesterday, I
Not
watched
like-
them take like 12 open threes. They missed every single one. I'm thinking in my head, you could have missed that against the Sixers, but you can't buy one against the Heat.
Oh, it's not like they're playing in the old Boston Garden or the Forum back in the day.
Yeah.
all right. So I'm going to get ready to wrap up here in a couple minutes, but real quick here, I got on the bottom here, pause year. Now, some people are saying, first off, I totally disagree with that. You can't have a pause year when you got Joel Embiid about
Nah, that doesn't make
30
any
years
sense.
old.
No.
That doesn't make any sense, Joe.
I agree. I'm just saying that's some of the stuff I was reading. That's some of the stuff, people I was listening to. It was 97.5 or something, and one of the writers or somebody was on there. I think it might even been Keith Pompey. I forget. It was somebody, but they were talking about, oh, well, maybe this year, we'll give the ball to Maxey again and just see if he and Embiid. We saw that last year, bro. That's
Right.
no better than like a 5 or 6 seed.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think people are listen, I love Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
I just think
He
the
needs
fan
to
base
work
is
on
too
his
high
defense,
on
man.
Tyrese Maxey. Like, he's a nice player and all. He's a liability on defense. He's not a great playmaker. Like, he's a good scorer. He's like Jamal Crawford.
Yeah.
To me,
He said he's a great
that's what I'm
sixth
starting
man.
to see in Maxey. I thought he'd be able to develop into a pure point guard, Damian Lillard type-ish, but he's
Yeah.
not. He's not. Let's be real. He's not a Damian Lillard caliber player. He's more, to me, a Jamal Crawford, Malik Monk, that kind of player.
A good
Yeah, he's
sixth
like-
man. You know what I mean? That's
He's like a combo goal. You know what I think Maxey is, and don't get me wrong, he's much better. I think he's a much better version of like a Lou Williams type guy.
Yeah, exactly. Lou
Yeah.
Will.
Yeah.
Perfect example, Joe.
yeah,
Because
You know,
he only creates for himself. He don't create for anybody else.
he's
Yeah,
got a quick first step to the hoop. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Great analogy.
was thinking that, because we were talking about like the Doug Collins Sixers and how we were in purgatory, and you remember a guy like Lou Will. Like Lou Will would come in.
He was
People
a hell of a
forget.
hustler.
I was gonna say people forget. Like Lou Will would come in off that bench, and sometimes he would get you like 12 to 14 really quick points.
Yeah,
I remember-
Lou Will's a stud. He's a
I
stud for
remember
his
one
role.
game was
Oh, yeah.
against the Atlanta Hawks. Lou Williams. He went off, got off the bench, and just like you said, Joe, did his
Took over
thing.
the game.
Points, defense, just solid all around play.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I wanted to get into some. I was thinking about getting into some Phil, but we'll get into the Phillies next week, or not? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, no. Actually, there is no next week. Next week there is no Sully squad because it's going to be Memorial Day, and I know there'll be some barbecues, and everybody. I know myself. I'll be. I know Fuji will be down your crib. We'll be down your crib next weekend. I gotta watch.
Sir.
I know I'm on my grind. I gotta watch my drinking and my yeah. Well, you know what? So I wanted to give a quick shout out here because I'm on a 6 challenge. Now you guys know that my diet for years has been I've been on that Slim Slow John. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You've been on that seafood diet. Everything you see, you eat that, John.
I have. You know what I mean? And I've and out there, you get locked in your box. And I'm the type like I would run in the morning, and then Diego, you see me like I'd run and I'll get a good sweat, and then or in the morning, and then I'll come in, I'll be like great
Give me
workout,
griddles.
and then Diego's like, what do you want to do for lunch? I'm like, yo, cheesesteak, dog. You know what I mean?
Just pack all those calories and pounds back on.
He just
Yeah,
burns
so-
off everything.
But anyway, I'm on a 6-week challenge, and I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm getting there. And I wanted to give these guys a shout out. I've been at this place called Legion Transformation, Legion Hatboro Transformation, and anybody out there that's looking to transform transform your body or transform your life, number one, get off the couch, because one of the reasons I want to wrap up is I'm making the 5 o'clock class, and that John comes early. All right, so that's number one. But I guess what I want to say is, don't get wrapped up in your routine of stress eating and not working out and stuff. Get off that couch, think outside the box, and give these guys a try, because they'll really make a difference for you. And like I said, I'm not there yet, but I'm down a few pounds, and I'm making some progress, and I'm going to stick with it. And I'll tell you, the workouts are addictive. Once you actually wake up, the hard part's getting up, but once you get there, you're ready to rock. So anybody out there that's looking to make a change, make sure you check those guys out. It's Legion of Hatboro, so check them out. They're good people. So
at the battle.
That's right. Hey man, that's step number one, is getting off that couch. You know what I mean? Or getting off the couch and getting up.
Amen.
That alarm comes early. That alarm comes early as hell, dog. So anyway, all right. Well, I guess who do the Phillies have this week? Phillies got what? Arizona, and who else?
Arizona, I believe, off to Atlanta. A road trip.
Atlanta Thursday night on the MLB
Wow.
Network.
All right, so Phillies have won 2 in a row. How do you think? How are we doing this week? What do you think our record is? What with after this week? What do we got? 6 or 7? Let me see here real quick.
I think we got 7, I believe.
Well, they're already not doing good. It's 3-0 Arizona.
2-4. The next 6.
2-4. Okay, yeah, and we're 2 under 500, right?
Yeah.
I'll go 3-3.
All right, I say 3-3. Although tonight's not looking good so far, and that really pisses me off because Zach Wheeler's pitching. So
3-3.
The game just started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just saw
6:40, I believe.
Plenty of time left in that game.
But yeah, there's plenty of time. But bottom of the second, Arizona got 3 in the second inning. So Arizona,
all good.
We could come back.
Yeah, just settle in, Wheeler.
Yeah, get the bats going, and stay somewhat. Don't get buried too early, until it gets hitting season. It's going to be.
Exactly.
What do you expect? What do you expect? Every time like they exploded Saturday, they kind of dropped dead the next couple of games.
Well,
Run-wise.
Blame it on Miko Spencer. He bet the Phillies. Every time he bets the Phillies, they lose. So I blame him.
That's like Eddie Mush.
Yeah. So all right. Well, listen. We'll let's head on out of here. Like I said, I got to get up early, and we will be back in 2 weeks. Everybody have a great Memorial Day, and hopefully 2 weeks from now, the Phillies will be on a winning streak. So
happy Memorial Day, guys.
All right. Have a good one.